Alright, this is a continuation of the last video. Sort of the first one goes into like just pick technique as far as what kind of pick you're using, how to hold it. Now we'll go a little bit more into playing technique. First off, I'm going to use a sharpened pick here in this demonstration. Use whatever you want, but try them all out. Sometimes, before I go into that, that's one thing I've noticed, is there's a pattern I'm trying to play and it's just not coming out right. And just giving me a hard time. Sometimes I'll try a different pick. I use a standard type of pick, normal gauge, but I kind of change around in them. And I find like a slightly lighter gauge pick sometimes just helps for a different type of pattern you're playing, or the tuning I'm at, how the guitar's set up, things like that. It can change for me, and it's worth trying out sometimes. It can really make things a lot easier. But back to picking. When I'm picking fast, first I'm going to go into the movements of my picking. And this is the cat that everyone heard meowing before, I think. He wants to be back in the video again, so say hello. And this time he's a little bit quieter, but he's going to probably keep jumping in the way. Either way, what I'm going to do is first go over the movement of picking fast. Really, one way to look at it is the less strings I'm trying to pick, the less movement I have to do. So when you're holding your pick, some people actually hold it on the top of their finger here between their thumb. And that's very difficult to do anything except move your whole wrist to move that. I can't use my fingers to do anything but pull it back or forward. If I use the side of my finger, which is a standard way to hold a pick, and hold my thumb there, I use my thumb and index finger to move that pick. And for pretty fast stuff, you can actually get away with that, where I'm not going to really move. Let me get my sound going. I'm not going to move my hand or my wrist. I'm just moving my fingers, my thumb and my first finger. And my fingers are moving a little bit, but my wrist is pretty stationary. I'm actually anchoring. A lot of people hate that technique, but it works for me. That works. And then there's just wrist movement. So basically from this part down, I'm going to use the wrist to move quickly. Whether his fingers are sitting like that or like this, everyone does it different. I kind of try to keep them a little relaxed. And I use like this motion, basically. It's kind of like keep my fingers relaxed. It makes it easier to keep this part being the fulcrum, the main area to move. As I use more strings, I need more movement. So to try to do that with my fingers or just my wrist, for two-string power chords or two-string chords, three-string chords, I will use mainly wrist, but as I get to more chords, or more strings on the chord, I'm going to start needing more movement, and I'm going to start using from elbow down to move my whole arm. And you'll see as I change from how many strings I'm using, my movement changes. But some music, we're going to have to sit on single strings for maybe the whole song, and it could be a long song. If you try to use the same movement for a long time for multiple songs that way at a live set, it's going to get pretty hard on your arm and your hand and your fingers. What's good to do is learn how to move that pressure around a bit. So if you're starting to feel fatigue using wrist, you can switch to using your finger and thumb. And if that starts to get fatigued, you can move that stress over to your elbow and start trying to use your whole arm for one string is more work than it's worth. It's really difficult. But as long as you can find a way to kind of move that stress around, you'll find you can play through this stuff faster. Or not faster, but longer periods of time. Let's see. There's, to cover some other things, is accents. When you're learning to play fast, if you're just trying to go like, get my sound going again. Just playing fast and really not on time, that's not going to get you very far very fast. What you want to do is practice with a metronome basically, and first try it at an easy tempo and try different counts. So I mean, I'm going to put a metronome 4/4 count at 150 beats per minute, and if I'm just following that alternate picking, that's easy. really what I want to listen for is that accent. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 1 is the accent. It's a little bit louder, a different sound on the metronome. So I'm going to play that note harder, but at this tempo, very slow. I'm going to exaggerate my movement on the note. That's going to help me when I speed it up. I'm going to try to keep exaggerating that movement, but when I'm going fast, I don't have the time to do that. So I'm actually still trying to make that movement. It's still kind of stuck in my muscular memory to go through it. I'm just keeping it a tighter movement, but the accent is still there. And that's really important to try out with a metronome. Try it slow, and you'll retain it if you kind of over-exaggerate it when you do have that luxury of being able to move a little bit further. The faster you go, the less you can move away from a string. And try it in different time signatures. Try it in 4/4 and 3/4, whatever you can think of. Also try how many times per click. Change that around so you can do in triplets and in 16th notes, 8th notes, 32nd notes. Try it all. Another technique to playing faster, what helped me getting through that is when I was trying to do that and kept struggling over the strings, is it's impossible, but try to make it so the tip of your pick never leaves the string. And that will keep you closer to your string, less movement, and more on-time movement. But don't forget about accenting. So basically I'm not going to count every single note I'm playing that fast. I'm going to count in 3s or 6s or 8s or 16. So I'm thinking instead of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm actually going 1, 2, 3. So without the volume, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll multiply it to figure out how many times I want to play per part. After a while, you get a feel for it too, so you can figure out how many times 24 was, or 62, or whatever count it is. Now, when I'm playing 2-string chords, whether it's a power chord or any type of chord, any kind of interval, I'm almost using the same movement, just being a little bit more loose with it. And that's another thing to keep in mind. You want to play this kind of playing to keep that accent there and keep it a sort of aggressive sound to it, and just keep the rhythmic value tight. You have to be a little bit tense, but not too much. You got to be relaxed at the same time. It's hard to explain. There's a happy medium though. You got to keep it rigid, but also stay relaxed. If you're doing it too cramped up, you're not going to play very long that way. You'll find yourself 10 minutes, 20 minutes of playing like that, and you start to get cramps, and it makes it very hard to move or play just normal. That's it for this one. I'll see if there's I'll probably follow up on this eventually when I get to some other videos first.